All right, hey everyone, welcome to Softcast, the season 4 premiere of Softcast, and I am super excited about this episode. I can tell you it is one of my favorites, and I can guarantee you it will be one of yours. We've got Master Sergeant Earl Plumlee from 1st Special Forces Group, the most recent living recipient of the Medal of Honor from Special Operations Command, and his story is harrowing, phenomenal, hilarious. I mean, it is everything you could ever want out of a podcast episode, and I guarantee you all are going to enjoy it. You can tell we were not going to turn the mics off. This one goes a little bit longer than a lot of our other episodes, but it is worth every single minute that's on this recording. I got a chance to sit down with Earl in person at an offsite and hear this amazing story. And he is such an incredible storyteller that I know that this is one that you're going to want to send to others and have them listen to it too. So I hope you enjoy it as much as we did having the conversation. And so now let's go to the interview with Master Sergeant Earl Plumlee from 1st Special Forces Group. Earl, thanks for stopping by and letting us chat with you, bro.
No, pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So I've seen, as you receive the Medal of Honor recently, you've been getting snatched up by all these different podcasts. But I know at times you're like, all right, man, I'm telling the story, but let's go back a little bit because you have a cool sort of like origin story because you didn't come straight into SF where you ultimately ended up earning the medal. You went to the Marines first. So talk to me a little bit, growing up in Oklahoma, what calls you into the Marines?
Well, I was always very interested in the Marines. I come from a Marine family.
Yeah.
My dad's actually a hybrid. He was a Marine who transitioned to the Army also.
Nice.
That was the books that we read and the stories that were told.
Yeah.
Were Marine stories, and it was that. And in my family, that was the kind of the transition. You were a man when you became a Marine. So.
Sure.
Super excited about becoming a Marine one day.
Yeah.
And I think my dad kind of realized that he'd oversold the Marine Corps, wasn't really interested in me being a Marine. So he took me down to the National Guard recruiter when I was in high school.
Okay.
And knowing that the Marine Corps would not take me until I had graduated, but the National Guard would let me join as a junior in high school.
Okay.
And he had done his research on me as a father and knew that I was going to take the low-hanging fruit.
As soon as it was offered,
let's go.
I'm in. Yeah.
And I didn't, I could drill out of my hometown, and so I did. I signed up and
Nice.
Joined the National Guard in high school, which was it was a lot of fun, especially for to be a high school student. And then on the weekend, I was a 13 mic MLRS crewman.
Okay.
So I got to go drive a tracked vehicle and shoot artillery, and it really set the hook for me that I was like, oh, this is...
Yeah, what 16 or 17-year-old kid doesn't want to go? Yeah, absolutely.
I went off-roading, and they're like, hey, don't drive it through the mud. You're going to have to clean it. And I was like, but it's somebody else's truck. I'll clean it all day,
Yeah, if the worst I got to do is spray some mud off of it, I'll be okay. Yeah.
They had a really good wash rack, so it was a great way to keep me... entertained in high school.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then eventually I started getting in a little bit of trouble, and I got my kind of warning order from the DA. He's like, hey, you're like second chances are kind of over. This stuff's cute and funny, but
second chances with an S at the end of it. Yeah, I got you.
It's cute and funny, but eventually you're gonna mess around here, and nobody's gonna be able to help you or save you, and you're going to ruin everything. And so I went and jumped in the briar patch and joined the Marine Corps, and they got me out of town, and everybody was happy about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you're coming up and you join the Marines, at that time, were you, I know you were kind of escaping, running out of second chances, but did you have thoughts initially of do I want to go to Force Recon, that type of thing? Were you thinking of that yet?
So, I knew as an artilleryman, I was like, this is neat, but I want to go, I want to be dirtier, and I need cami paint. And
I need some more suck in my life.
So I told the recruiter, I was like, I want to be a Force Recon Marine. He's like, well, cool. So does everybody else, and you can't pick that to start. But I got just the job for you. It's the infantry. And I was like, perfect. Sign me up. And Yep. Became a Marine infantryman.
Yeah.
And did that for 4 years, and then at a 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines in Hawaii, which is, I think, really built the person or the soldier that everybody else wanted. No elite organization was interested in 18-year-old
in Gen 1 Earl.
Yeah.
I got you.
And I learned how to behave myself and try hard and really disciplined.
Yeah.
There, and then I became a Force Recon Marine at the back end of my infantry tour.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been lucky enough to have a couple Force Recon guys on the podcast. When I was growing up, that was the dude, right? Like the poster of Force Recon.
Yep.
I mean, that was like everything you wanted to be as a red-blooded young American man. Was like, man, that
the rope, the knife, and the boonie hat.
Exactly right. That's what I want.
Guys.
So how'd you feel? You go through that. You get to Force Recon. Does it start to, I know eventually, I'm kind of leading this question because I know you end up out of the back end coming to be a Green Beret, but what was your first initial, like, all right, hey, we're there. I know MARSOC's hasn't stood up yet as you go into it. Kind of talk me through, like, what's your thoughts as you get into force?
So, my first deployment was with 2nd Force Reconnaissance. My command offered up 1 platoon to them from Hawaii. And we went to Iraq.
So this was prior to you going there, right? You were still in Hawaii, and then
I was still in Hawaii. So I was what was the program? They had a RMAT program, Recon Marine Awaiting Training.
Okay, gotcha.
And I love the Marine Corps, but I didn't quite trust them. They offered me a couple deals, and I found on the back end that it would have locked me into my current position in the infantry for 3-4 years while space opened up in these different programs. So anyway, I transitioned to the reserves immediately while I was on terminal leave. Signed this RMAT program. Yeah, and went to RIP, went to ARS, and became a 0321. And dive school, SEER school. All you do is just eat schools and be fully qualified. And on the back end of that, I hadn't really decided what I was going to do. I had this kind of ambition to go to college. My dad was always kind of pushing me to do that. Yeah. Or they offered me, I think, 18 months of orders to augment active duty operations, which would have guaranteed us a deployment to Iraq, and I jumped on that. Yeah, absolutely. And that was what I call rock star status. We were extremely busy. It was a 2005-6 pre-surge Iraq. The helicopters landed at our CHU every evening, and I would get dressed in my room, walk maybe 200 meters, get on a helicopter, fly in, hit a target, be back. They'd drop us off in the same area. I would change and then walk down to the chow hall, and I was like, this is movie status. This is why we're here, and I'm never leaving, and I want more of this.
I'm going nowhere else.
Yep. And I didn't know anything. I was just Bravo right rifleman,
living the life,
guy,
baby. Living the life. Yeah.
And then our second deployment toward the end of Iraq, there were so many restrictions on conventional forces. Yeah. And what really sold me was we had some Sons of Iraq came up, and they were like, "Hey, we found these foreign fighters. There's probably 20 or 30 of them in this bed down location. If you guys come with us, we'll go kill them, but we're not going by ourselves."
Okay.
And I was like, "Yeah, let's go."
Yeah.
And they're like, our command was like, "No, you can't." But we got on a Blue Force tracker. There was an ODA like on there. We're like, well, let's see what
phone a friend.
So they were like, they came by and like, what is it? All right, over here. Grabbed the.
Thank you very much.
Grabbed these, Sons of Iraq, went over, found the information was correct, and
solid.
Laid the scunion on these dudes, and I was like, and that's where somebody's like, let me explain.
Light bulb,
mission and authorities, like this is our job, that's their job, and there's lines that we can't cross that they can, and I was at that point was like, well, maybe
I should cross a line.
Maybe I should cross a line. And I had kind of a mentor there. His name was Ken Sotheby, and he was like, if you were interested in special operations, maybe you should go to the Army. Mm-hmm. If you're interested in being an elite warrior and part of an elite conventional unit, then you're in the right place. Stay here in the Marine Corps.
Right.
And I was like, well, I want to go do stuff that people can't talk about. So I got out of the Marine Corps. Same thing. I was a pro at it. So while I was on terminal leave, you can sign a contract. So I had my terminal leave papers, and
how many 214s do you have?
I have 5 DD214s. I have a little bit of ADHD. Not too bad. It takes me 2 to 3 years to figure out on board, and then I make drastic life-altering decisions constantly.
Full cutaways. I like it.
Walked into the Army recruiter, and I said, I want to be a Green Beret. And he said, yeah, sure you do. But
so does everybody else.
Why don't you start out with this infantry contract and really learn the ropes? And I was like, no, I've got all the ropes. I know all about being in the infantry.
I'm the guy with the rope and the boonie hat. I've got the ropes. Yeah.
I've got, I have jungle boots with no heels. I don't want to be in the infantry anymore.
Yeah.
And he signed me up with an 18 X-ray contract.
And
I think I had a 12-hour break in service from the Marine Corps to the Army. Because whenever my terminal leave expired, MEPS wasn't open, so I had to come back the next day and swear back in.
Yeah.
And I think like 4 or 5 days later, I was in Fort Benning and processing the Army.
That's awesome. And, so you didn't have to go back through basic training though, did you?
No, because at that time, if you were a Marine and you didn't have a break in service more than I think a year or something,
more than 13 hours.
Yeah, I was more than qualified to skip.
Okay, yeah. I would assume so as a Force Recon Marine. Yeah, okay.
Which comes in a hilarious story later.
Yeah.
So they gave me my uniforms.
Yeah.
And at the end, all the soon-to-be soldiers make a right, and then I make a left. And go to they had an X-ray hold. For guys waiting to get on the bus and go
to SOPSI. Yeah.
Go to SOPSI.
Yeah.
And they just graduated an airborne class of guys because you can't show up for SOPSI unless you're airborne. And since I was already airborne qualified as a Force Recon Marine, they were like, get on the bus.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I don't know how to get dressed. And I had my beret that it was in a box. There's nothing on it. It's still covered in fluffy fur. And I've got my dress greens with all this, handfuls of crap. I'm like, don't worry, your unit will teach you.
Oh, man.
So I show up at SOPSI.
Not at SOPSI.
Yes, I show up at SOPSI and just start getting my ass kicked immediately for being a train wreck. And, everybody go getting your dress greens for inspection, and mine are,
not even put together,
not even tailored. And I'm like, I have this little manual, and I didn't even try. I was like, I don't know I cannot get dressed in a day.
I love it.
So like 30 minutes isn't going to work for me. And they're like, well, go over here to that area. That's the area for people that can't get dressed. And I think 6 hours later, covered in dirt and
some
mud.
Pike field dirt.
All right, now you're going to get a second chance at this, so please be in your dress uniform tomorrow morning. And I had my little book, and there's actually another prior service Marine in there with me, Nathan Doty, and we both sitting there and trying to figure out how to get this uniform squared away. So,
man, I tell you, when I went through SOPSI, we had several prior service guys, a couple Marines and a SEAL. And man, those dudes walked on water to us because I was in the opposite boat, right? I was a 19-year-old kid. The only thing I did know how to do was get dressed, and that was barely, right? So I was the kid coming out of the airborne school line and getting on that bus. And you guys like hung the moon. Prior service dude that came through, like I said, there's a couple of them with us that they could have told me to stand on my head and I would have been in. So I know that those guys, once you did figure out how to get that dress screen together, I'm sure that they very much appreciated. And I would assume, did you find yourself sort of in a mentorship role for all of us young idiots?
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
And tearing my hair, because as an infantry squad leader, I was used to
dummies
dealing with privates.
Sure.
But I hadn't done that in forever. And as a Force Recon Marine, everyone's elite. Everybody wants to be there.
Yeah.
And so you never deal with
You were used to the output, not the input. Yep. Yeah, 100%.
And so they, they're like, hey, you're in charge of these, I think 30 or so. And there was a right time, right place, right uniform, and then 3 inspectable items: your ID card, your dog tags, and a Camelback, which was full. Yeah. And I never was able to get all of us down there in that configuration, even when we had hours of warning. And I was like, are these all? Is this a test to get me to
these
quit?
Plants?
Is this part of the? Is this part of the selection process? Is to constantly have somebody like, why are you drinking your water? Don't drink your water before. Drink it after the formation. That is the 3 things we need. And it was tearing my hair out, but it was good motivation. I'm like, I am going to get selected because I can't go be in charge of privates in the 82nd Airborne.
And out of that, for everybody listening, obviously this is at the very beginning. Out of that 30, I would assume it's probably like 5 shuffle out of the other end of it, if that.
Yeah, I think that's probably the ratio. Yeah,
if that. Yeah, I know for my SOPC class, it was something along those lines. But I remember being sort of similarly, but on the other side of it, of like not knowing anything through that. And I think hopefully I gave those guys, if any of them are listening, hopefully gave them less problems than it sounds like your guys did drinking the water. But it is, it's an interesting thing because those kids, they have the opportunity to go to selection at such a minuscule amount of experience. But the ones who shake out, for everybody listening, SOPC, Special Operations Preparation Course, especially in the early days of GWAT, if you passed that, you had almost like an 80 or 90% chance of passing SFAS, our selection program, because it was such a crusher. Like you lose everybody then, and then by the time the guys go to selection, they have only been trained on everything they need for selection. So when you went to SFAS, how did that feel? Was that relatively easy, having been a Force Recon Marine, having gone through SOPC, or did you still find there was some trouble there?
No, I had a great time in selection. Yeah. Because land nav that was my thing. That I was actually, even in the Force Reconnaissance platoons, I was exceptional at land nav. So the STAR course was easy. Yeah. All the rucks and runs, none of them were that bad compared to the Marine Corps infantry actually made me basically a living robot for you can put heavy things on me and point me in a direction and it will end up at the other side. So I always tell I don't really have any peers looking to come over now because we're all old, but I was like, no Recon Marine fails selection. You might quit somewhere through the Q course because it takes forever, but selection is to establish a baseline for future training. It's not made to be an insurmountable wall. It's just made to make sure you're worth the investment.
Absolutely.
So, and that's even when I talk to younger soldiers, because they have they've built this mental roadblock to them attending selection, because it's they'll see an ODA and like, well, if that's what they're looking for me to be that right off the rip. I'm not the guy they're looking for. I'm like, well, none of those guys, all those guys were.
Let me pull up their selection folder.
I guarantee you, one of these guys couldn't remember to bring his dog tags to formation.
He was drinking his Camelback while I was trying to get him to.
So I was like, selection is it's hard. It's something to be proud of when you pass, but it's not an impossible task. It's not made to be. It's just to make sure we have the appropriate population of people to train.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's for. But yeah, it was I had fun in selection. The first week of rucks and unknown distance runs. I mean, I was born of that fire in the Marine Corps. That's what we do. So I excelled at that. Team week, which I think SOPC spent the most time training the guys.
Because it was what, 09 or so when you went through?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the the soldiers with life skills. That's to kind of put stress on them and the knots and the contraptions. But SOPC had laid the blueprints for me so that I had the answers to all the tests, and it wasn't even multiple choice. So I did well, and it's also team roulette how hard selection is going to be for you. So my first team, all but 4 or 5 quit on the first event, which was down pilot. And
that's not the one you want. Only 5 people.
So we had, they just kept quitting and kept quitting.
Yeah.
And at one point, we're like, if one more guy quits, there's not this
physically.
Like you can't have a flat tire with a down pilot. And I was like, do we have to restart selection or?
Yeah. How's this work?
Are they gonna let us drag this thing on the ground the whole way? And we made it to the transition point and blew that team apart.
Yeah.
And my next team, I think, was a reward either from the Univers or from the
cadre.
The cadre, because it was just I call it the man bear pig team.
Yeah.
We had other events like, hey, you want me to spell you? Like, we're making great time. I'll just carry this log, and we'll just trot down the road. And we made every hit time, and he catted one of our instructors. I don't know where those guys are now, but I'm sure everybody on that team is doing well.
Yeah,
because that was some of the most physically fit people I've ever really worked with in a group.
Yeah, that's awesome. We, you're talking about kind of as Marines coming over. I mean, there's a pretty well-worn path. There are a lot of Marines, especially in that time frame.
It's even. I think the Marine Corps has a business model where they bring in a ton of young recruits early. They don't really ever intend to retain a lot of them.
Right.
Man, if you ever go to the Chow Hall on Bragg, like there are Marine combat patches all over Q Corps students.
Oh yeah.
And they set those. You can go to selection now as a Marine, and then as soon as you
just get swapped over.
As soon as you finish your service, you re-enlist into the Army and start the Q course.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I said, there's a ton of them. To me, it's sort of similar of like Ranger Regiment. It's like you're growing up, as you said, in like a very elite unit, and it's a great place to grow up. Maybe not always for you. May not be the place you want to stay. And we have we're the beneficiaries over in SF land of a lot of really, like I said, even going through the Q course after going through SOPSI and everything and getting selected and whatever else, like you said, that's not, it's something to be proud of when you pass, but in the Q course, you're no better really of a soldier. So I was just looking to any of those guys who had good backgrounds, either Ranger Regiment guys, Marines, whoever, like, all right, what's that guy doing? All right, that's what I need to do. Like as a 19, 20-year-old, like, all right, what's Earl do? All right, I'm in. I'm going to do that.
The sock, because they're like, you're supposed to change your socks. I'm like, well, not every 20 minutes. Like, finish this event, then for sure change your socks. They make such a big deal out of it. I just remember seeing 19-year-old privates like, oh, I stepped in a puddle. I'm changing my socks. I'm like, there's probably more puddles before we get out of here.
We're only halfway through the movement, but no, it's awesome. So, all right, you go to first group.
Yep.
Right. You're finally. Tell me, there's not a break-in service somewhere in there, right? We just go to first group. Okay, I'm just making sure.
All right. Just drove all the way to first group.
Yeah. So you get into your first team. To me, we talk about this sometimes. First team, super critical to how you sort of look at SF. I don't think probably as big a deal to someone like you with the background you had as it is to like guys who are coming either straight from 18 X-ray land or something else. But that first team, a lot of times imprints like it's either, okay, this is what being SF is, or this is what that's, so when you get there, is it what you thought it was going to be?
Not at all.
Okay.
I show up to first group and process, and I go to 4th Battalion.
Okay, yeah.
And I didn't know, but 4th Battalion had been a thing probably for 45, 50 days. By the time I
not very long. Yeah.
And the acting battalion sergeant major was going to be a company sergeant major, Sergeant Major Tony Bell, and he questioned me a little bit, and I took a liking to me, so he put me in his company.
Yeah.
And I was a combat diver, and I was also a free faller.
Yeah.
It's like, which one of those you want to do? And I guess I passed that test because I know that everybody coming in here is asking for the free fall team.
I'm going to say the other.
I was like, I have more experience diving than I do jumping, so I guess I would probably be more value added on a dive team. And
he said, good answer.
He said, no, you seem more like a free fall guy to me, and you're going to my free fall team.
Really?
Yeah. I said, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And he brings me down and opens this team room door. This is your team. And it's just an empty room. I still remember there was a broom, some chairs, one computer. And he said, you guys have a warrant officer over there, Mark Colbert. He's away at a school right now, but he'll be back in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And I got some other good guys lined up. So he's like, do PT, stay out of trouble. And I'm coming down here. I'm going to be your company sergeant major. And he left. And he left me in an empty room. And
all right.
So that's a little while later. We got some other personnel. We got an Echo, Greg Moon.
Okay.
And he was a more experienced Green Beret. He'd done a tour in Okinawa, and he's like, you never really get this much downtime in this job. So let's do 2-a-day PT.
Nice.
I'll set some language training up for us, and then let's go home every day at like 1400.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Yeah. Which was killing me because I'd only ever in the Marine Corps I deployed a lot for the the Global War on Terror, and the whole time in the Q course I was like couldn't wait to get out of there and get operational again. Yeah. I came over here to like really get after it, and that wasn't my experience.
Yeah, that's interesting. I thought you were going to say that the sergeant major said, "Hey, we'll call you." There was a great story when I was a young buck in 7th Group. We're like, this big stink starts in the sergeant major's office where they're like, "Hey, man, has anybody seen?" And I'll make up a name, but it was like, "Has anybody seen Jones?" And they're like, well, "Who's Jones?" And he's like on the board that his name's written there, right? And Sergeant Major comes back from this Manning meeting. He's like, "This Jones is on my Manning document. Like, does anybody know who this kid is? Whatever." And like on the whiteboard, there's like this name and cell phone number scribbled, right? So they call this cat, and he's like, "Yeah, this is Jones. Yeah, I'm at home. Do you guys need me?" And they're like, "Yeah, what?" So come to find out, this kid had signed in. He was straight out of the Q course, straight 18 X-ray. He walks in, he signs in, and nobody's there. It's Friday afternoon, right? And so like the op sergeant's not there, the B team, nobody's there. So somebody on another team is just like, "Hey, bro, just write your name up there, and they'll call you." And so this guy had in his mind that it was like Tom Cruise, like when a mission comes up, they will call me. This dude had been home for like a month. And he was just like, doing PT, I'm at home. Whenever they get a mission, they'll call me.
I'll be ready.
So they brought this kid. And I think he had to do like a year on the B team just to like, resettle kind of what SF was for him. But so you get a chance then. Obviously, that's not where the story ends. The initial part is maybe not what you thought, but you then get operational.
We get an exceptional team built.
Okay.
And it was great for me. I loved that team. Mm-hmm. That's all my wife's core friends. Mm-hmm. So even though I've been on other teams.
I got the same thing. Yeah.
That team, that's the one. Yeah. Whenever we have team parties in my house, it's my original team. It's not my current team or like that. So it was heartbreaking when that thing kind of blew apart.
Yeah, I got the same thing, man. Yeah.
And we've all been trying to put it back together, and we have limited success. Yeah. And now we're getting attrited to retirement, so it'll never happen. Yeah. But it was an awesome team. I don't know. I guess Tony Bell was a master of picking guys off of their ERB, and spotting and assessing personalities, because he handpicked everybody for that team, and you couldn't have picked a better mesh of people.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep. And so we did get operationalized, and we got a JSET. I didn't know what JSETs were. I thought that I was going to get dune buggies and go back to Iraq, and we didn't. We did a JSET with a law enforcement entity in the Philippines, and, and that was my first trip, which was neat. And every trip I think I learned something neat about how to be a Green Beret, or what America's foreign policy actually looks like, because there's so many tendrils and branches and efforts spread across the spectrum, and if you think you have it mastered, you're probably profoundly ignorant.
Yeah, absolutely. The partnership thing's huge. I mean, we talk about it on this thing all the time, but I think all the groups are doing it, but I think 1st Group and 7th Group for the majority of the time, like we had to remain operational in our AOR while we were also rotating over there. And I got spoiled at the beginning of my career, was just going back to back to back to back in combat. And I was in group for like 5 years or something before I did anything else. And then I went down south and I'm like, oh yeah, this is the other part of this job that I remember from the Q course. We're supposed to do this too.
These things.
So it's interesting that you got one beforehand, got in there, kind of, I would assume, tuned up some of the teaching and working together as far as partners.
Yeah, so especially young E6, fairly competent leader. Yeah. I've given hip hop training. I've never really formalized how to instruct.
Yeah.
So I got 2 J sets before I went to a combat rotation with first group, and each time I had really good mentors on the team.
Yeah.
That were professional instructors, and they had me build, not vomit out a class, but have an intent for your learning, build a class from the ground up, and then give instruction that's not that clunky or weird.
Yeah.
And also, checking any kind of translations that you're doing for a body of students that doesn't maybe speak English.
Right.
And made me a very professional soldier. I think by having that kind of in the AOR non-combat employment, really made me a stronger Green Beret for sure, instead of just going straight to CENTCOM.
No, I'm glad you brought it up, because intellectually, if you think about it, if you're listening to the show, to be able to teach something and then to be able to teach something in another language, you have to be incredibly proficient at it. But we don't really think about that part of the job that often until you're in that position. Because like I said, it was 5 or so years into my team time when I realized I'm pretty good at all this, but now I have to be the guy who not only can teach it in another language, but can take questions and explain the why behind each one of these little intricacies. I'm teaching room clearing in a J set in Spanish, and it's not like, all right, just do it exactly like this. It's like, all right, well, why am I turning this way or that way? I have to explain that in Spanish too. So it starts unlocking some of those layers that
and then, you can
really solid.
You can try and anticipate which questions students might ask, and then for you're in a foreign country, you can't.
Yeah.
There'll be stuff that you think they'll have a ton of questions, and they, for whatever reason, none. And then they'll ask these intricate questions. Then you have to get them through an interpreter.
Right.
Figure out an appropriate answer, and then the interpreter is not well versed in military speak, so you have to work through it. And it really breaks the flow of your class up. If you're just teaching English-based students, you have a flow, and every 15, 20 minutes you'll stop for a question, and it'll answer it and move on. And then teaching in a foreign language will keep you on your toes.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, there's no better way. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be military. It doesn't have to be Green Beret. If you're listening, there's no better way to test yourself than to try to teach. True mastery is how well you can take something complex and make it understandable for someone who's never done it. That's what a real master can do. It's not that they can take an hour to explain it. It's the quicker you can synthesize something incredibly complex and make it incredibly easy for somebody to understand, that means you have true mastery of it. And I didn't know that or appreciate that until I started having to do those things. I'm like, well, I'm really good at CQB, and now I have to figure out how to teach it to someone who doesn't know which way to even point this rifle right now. Okay, we got a long way to go, and it's up to me to figure out how to take some very complex kind of things and break them down into bite-sized chunks. So
super rewarding though when you
it is.
I can teach this, and you get the aha from an entire class that none of them speak your language. Awesome. No, you're absolutely right. Incredibly rewarding, no matter what the class is. Especially when you have students, when you have allies and partners that really want to learn. We've probably, you and I've probably both done them on both sides. You have some class members that just, we were promised a nap and a lunch, and you're kind of cutting into one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so you get some of that stuff. I usually ask something along the lines of, how prepared did you feel when you went to that combat rotation that you ultimately end up earning the Medal of Honor? Sounds like pretty damn prepared, right?
I was
Force Recon guy, multiple, going through the Q course.
So I was very humbled when I got to my team.
Yeah.
And when we went to combat, I was like, finally, something I'm good at. Something that I can I can stand up in front of the team and be like, I'm the guy. I know how to do this part. And then, wrong again. Because as a Green Beret, you never do a unilateral patrol.
Right.
And as a E6, you're going to at least be a platoon commander of somebody.
Yeah.
And so I went back to the drawing board a little bit, but I did understand. I knew how to go. I knew how to get in a gunfight. I knew how to win it. I had never, obviously, as an enlisted man in the Marine Corps, I'd never been a platoon commander.
Yeah.
And battle tracking, C2ing that, communicating back to your team leader where the hell your guys are, where you're at, so that he doesn't blow you up. I thought I was a master. I was not, again, a master.
Yeah.
But I was a lot more confident. So I was like, I haven't done this before, but I know the basics and I know the fundamentals of a combat employment, and let's go. Get after it. And
I want to pull out on that before we get there, just because it's something we haven't really covered on the show that much. Is part of the value proposition of Special Forces, right? You just hit the nail on the head that like most people from the outside, they think of a 12-person team, stacked on a door, unilateral hit, we're running through, and that is like 0.00001% of any mission, even in combat, right? As you talked about, taking as an E6 and then basically being a platoon commander or company commander in different places, it is a completely different thing that we don't really talk about that often. But being that force multiplier, being able to take 12 guys and basically run a brigade-size element in combat is a really completely different perspective. So as you said, you kind of went back to the drawing board. Talk me through those like initial kind of, all right, man, my learning curve of now I'm trying to get these Afghans to do what I need them to do. And like you said, as we're calling in fire, not do what I want them to not do. Yeah.
So, I think naively, maybe not naively, I've always admired snipers and I had gone to sniper school and I had my sniper rifle. I'm like, I was the coolest sniper that the regiment had to offer. And then, we got in a gunfight and I'm just doing all my sniper stuff, figured out the range, identified pick a target, found a PKM gunner, fired probably 2 rounds at him, suppressed him, and then the gunfight was over and lost track of everything else that was going on because I was sucked into my glass doing this
Army
one little
01
thing. And I was like, that's probably not right. So as cool as the sniper rifle is, I got rid of it. I started concentrating on Carl Gustav and the mortar to help support our guys because they don't need a super sniper. They just need fire support. And it kept me, I kept my head up and gave me essay on how to run these guys. And then also how to figure out with a vast different array of forces that we were using. So we were doing a VSO. And so we had Afghani Special Forces, which were very good. And you could almost cut them loose by themselves. They had a tendency to kind of get a little ahead of you and not tell you where they're at. Those are the guys that were probably going to blow up on accident because they were so eager to kind of close with the enemy. And then we had our Afghan army, which you always knew where they were. They were right where you left them because they would not move unless you drug them. And then we had 2 unique units that I was kind of my job to keep track of, which was the anti-Taliban movement. And that's just whoever shows up at the spot. You never know how many you're going to get.
Just some partisans.
What they're going to do, and how mad they are. Sometimes they're just showing up because they promised to, and then sometimes they're showing up because they're super interested in being a part of this fight. So if we had a situation, you'd have to go assess, see what their interest is, because then you would have to rapidly put them into the planning how you're going to use them. And then we had our Afghan local police and Afghan police, which were pretty reliable, but they're in that job for a reason, and it's not to get shot at.
They're not at the forward line of trace. Same with sort of the Afghan National Army. Like you said, they're gonna be right behind.
Don't let anybody past you. They're like, You go up there. Nobody's getting past us. We promise. But that was several patrols. Mounted, dismounted, and we're putting this mess together of anti-Taliban movement, Afghan local police, Afghan police, maybe Afghan army, maybe not, and then our Afghan special forces, and then trying to get them to locate, close with, and destroy the enemy faster than the Taliban, who are masters of disappearing off the battlefield.
Yeah.
So it was super challenging, super neat, and I originally came here with an idea of going to selection, going to work for a tier 1 entity, and man, I was having so much fun. Being on this circus, I was like, I'm never leaving this job. This is the best.
Man, it reminds, like I said, early on in Afghanistan, I had some of those similar things where like there's no appreciation. It's hard to even explain it as we're talking about it, but like I know exactly what you mean. We're like it's such a complex like mental problem while you're getting shot at, trying to figure out like how do I get the right people in the right place and make sure that they don't overrun this, and that sometimes how do I pull them along with me when I need them, and sometimes how do I make sure that they're not running out because they don't realize that we're about to drop some skinning on something else. But it is just a completely different ball game when you are out there. I think I said it on another episode. We should joke about like everything that the light touches is our kingdom, because you're just like alone and unafraid. You're out there by yourselves, and it's a super cool. It's just an amazing job that we're blessed to be able to have. It's like there's always something new. There's always some different problem to solve.
Yeah, I think it's what's held my interest all these years.
Right.
I don't think I've ever come to work and done the same thing that I did yesterday.
Right.
And this job also, as soon as I master something and I think maybe get a little complacent.
Yeah.
Paradigm shift. Here's your new job that you know nothing about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, your favorite sniper rifle comes back in a little bit later.
Yep.
Right? So we think, if you don't know Earl's story, you're listening to all this stuff as he's controlling all these things, and you might think like, okay, this firefight is about to come up from that, but that's not where it comes from, right?
No, it's not.
It comes from changes of command and all kinds of weird things. So bring us up to the day that suddenly you go from we're doing all this stuff to
back different job.
Different job.
This was the first time we had won the war in Afghanistan in 2013. Yeah. So they were closing sites, and I got offered, you can go home or you can serve on the B team.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm taking the B team.
Yeah.
It's not the coolest job that the regiment has, but it's a job in country. Being in country is always going to be better than not. Mm-hmm. So I picked be on the B team, and so then I went back and just did slave labor all over and teams are calling and yelling at me because they're not getting the support that they think they deserve. And I'm like, I hand loaded like 20,000 pounds of ammo last
full-time
night. I'm
AST,
sorry, it wasn't the nomenclature you wanted. But I knew, I was like, my only chance of getting in a fight at this point will be either from this FOB, off base, or in support of another team. But teams they're not going to embed me in their team. They'll use me for help.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm going to rebuild my sniper rifle out again. Yeah. And I built a Mark 20. Yeah. Semi-automatic 308 gun. Yeah. And I was like, so if a team wants me, I will come and support them, and that's the way it'll work. And if somebody attacks this camp, I'm going to need because it was a Polish-run camp. We weren't part of the base defense plan. Yeah. We weren't even doing operations in the province that camp was on. Yeah. So the only chance would be if I would have to make like a 900 to 1,200 meter shot, and
or somebody could have massively attacked the base. Yeah.
And, so I was actually looking. I did build range cards for the base defense plan for the AOB because they didn't have one, so I needed to build one. And
nice.
And I almost switched to a 300 Win Mag bolt gun because the ranges were so far, and I just didn't get to it because I was like, it's not that important. I'm on the B team. I'll fix it later. And thank God I didn't, because that would have been the only gun worse than the one I brought would have been a bolt action rifle. So we're doing a change of command, and we took a picture. So one of the reasons I was able to respond so quickly was I went maxed out for the picture. I had my rifle completely set up. I had all my kit.
This is the one time in history that a cool guy photo induced later a Medal of Honor.
And we finished the picture, and I have all this crap in my hands now, this gigantic rifle and kit with way too much ammo on it. And I'm like, man, my can is kind of far away. I'm going to do it later. So I set all my stuff down right in front of the company headquarters. And I was hanging out in the med shed with our 18 Delta, and he's trying to give an IV to a guy, and I'm sticking my finger up his nose so that he jumps while he's getting this needle in him. And all of a sudden, we both just get floored by this explosion. Yeah. And at this point, we later figured out they were conditioning and eliciting responses, but we'd been getting hit with indirect fire every morning around 10 o'clock to lunch every day for like probably 3 weeks. Yeah. And to the point where we all knew don't leave camp, the SF camp, because if you go to the Army camp, you have to, or the camp proper, you would get in a bunker, and you would be trapped in it until EOD had inspected the poo site, and it's like a 2-hour chunk of your day that's gone. So we were kind of forecasting this indirect fire, and we'd stay on the soft camp so you could at least maneuver about our area, do some work. And so our expectation was that we had, like, the med shed had got hit because all the meds and bandages are off the wall, and it's just a big pile on the floor, and there's so much dust in there you can barely see. And our main thing is I'm going out to the door, and I'm like going to tell everybody don't freak out, we're fine. Don't everybody running over here looking for wounded, because we're all good in here. And then we come out and everybody's doing the same thing. Like, nobody's hurt here, don't worry about us. But the subsin got hit, and the opsin got hit, and I was like, I thought the med shed got hit.
Everything
got hit. And I'm looking around the whole camp. There's like a layer of dust. It was an extremely clear day up until that point, and you could see off in the mountains in the distance, and it was a really pretty day. And now we have like this low hanging fog of dust on the entire camp. And I start hearing small arms, and I start hearing indirect fire landing, but not like harassment levels, like
getting it on.
It's picking up, and it's getting heavy. Yeah. And I look toward where I see it, and that's when I see this gigantic mushroom cloud that's just taking up the entire horizon on the other side of the camp, and I'm like, oh wow. Yeah.
How far away was that?
So the SF camp was 750 meters from the center of it to the wall that exploded. Okay. Which it blew my door in half on my living space, which I found out later. Yeah. And it was 3,500 to 5,000 pounds, depending on what mix of HME it was, but not a little device. Yeah. But I'm my gear's right there. I jump in it.
Because procrastination and cool guy picks potentially leads to,
Yes. Always do all these things.
Yeah. If you're listening, this is a checklist.
So I get my gear on, and right then one of our guys drives up. He'd been out doing a mail run in the Toyota pickup. Yeah. And he comes pulling up, and the door opens, and he is a flash of light to the nearest bunker. And I guess since he was pulling back out of the compound, they didn't have anything to shoot at yet, so everybody was shooting at him. And he was very excited to not be a part of the situation anymore. And I was like, cool, it's the motor's running, keys are in the ignition, and I go to get in, and another buddy of mine, Nate Alkmeyer, he's like, hell no, I'm driving. And he jumps in, and I'm like, I didn't want to drive anyway, because I'm a super cool sniper, and I have to employ this badass rifle. So I jump in the front seat, and we start to pull out, and we almost run over the B team Fox, Drew Busick. Yeah. He's on a 4-wheeler, and he's all kitted up, and he's got once again probably we're dressed up for the change of command photo, but he's been doing kind of low profile meets, so his gun is an MP5.
You guys got all the spectrum covered at this point.
Yeah, we picked the most challenging weapons to employ in a
This
CQB
is like a
battle.
grab bag of like what can we grab on the way? Yeah.
Yeah, and he's only got 2 mags. But I remember yelling at him like, "Get the hell off that 4-wheeler and get in with us. You're going to get shot to pieces."
Yeah, this is not a rural patrol right now. We might want some. Yeah.
And so he hops in the truck, gets in the back seat. Yeah. There's mail all over the back seat. He's like, shoveling out of the way.
I love it.
And we get to the gate, and then I have a little bit of doubt in my mind, right? Because I am the B team weapons sergeant, and base defense is what I'm supposed to be the master of, and I'm about to leave the base that I should be running, but I felt very empowered by my leadership, and I was like, Tony Bell wants me to get in the fight, 100%. I was like, if he's going to ask where I'm at, I'm like, I heard guns, I ran to him, and that's what I was doing.
If I have to answer that question, I would rather answer I was in the fight than somewhere else. Yeah.
So, but I'm like, I better lock. I'm going to lock this gate. So you guys pull through the gate. I'm going to lock it, and then at least I'm like, at the bare minimum, the gate's not open, and nobody's just going to run into the camp while the base defense drill is still spinning up. Yeah. So they park on the other side, and I'm locking the gate, and I come out, and 180 degrees from where the main breach was, there was a large hotel, 3 stories that overlooked the camp, and that's where the Taliban had a presence. We're not sure what their plan was, but they had a ton of heavy weapons and a pretty significant amount of fighters in there. And they see the black truck is back again, so they start shooting the shit out of it. Yeah,
we missed it the first time. Yeah. We can get it this time.
And they're parked trying to wait on me. So I come running out, and they're like, "Get in." So I get in, and we push out of there, and you see pictures of the truck. It's got every single side of it's been shot by the time the day's over. And we're sitting there like, well, that seems pretty sporty. Maybe we should get after these guys. But we decided there's still a whole wall. The Polish are starting to man their fighting positions. I was like, no, we're going to the breach. Mm-hmm. And then we pull past our motor pool, and it's where we had our uplift force and a ton of our soft skill persons. Like they live there and work there, and it's catching hell too. Mm-hmm. And we're kind of
from the same hotel.
Same hotel.
Yeah, just ripping it.
It's got mortars and recoilless rifles. It's just kind of beating the piss out of it. And then the towers are taken. You can see the small arms hitting the towers. Yeah. But we look in, and all of them are running about purposely, and they're you can start to hear the return fire starting to pick up from the towers. I was like, I think it looks like they got it, man. Let's go that way. So we start closing the distance to the breach. We get about half the distance there, and our company warrant and another soldier from one of our teams. Yeah, they pull up, and they're all once again these 4-wheelers. I think everybody
it's a pretty SF
it's an easy thing. Yeah, that's what
easy to jump on and go. Yep. Grocery getter. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So everybody they pull up, and we're like, you guys going to the that's where we're going to the let's go to the blast. Yeah. And we start heading down the road, and the last covered and concealed area before the airfield, and I can see the breach in the wire at this point, and I can see fire kind of coming back and forth, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you know what, hold up here, because I'm gonna climb out. I had this idea of climbing some walls or some containers to kind of let me dominate the airfield. And Chief Colbert and Matt Horde pull past us on this 4-wheeler and just get hammered by small arms fire. Couldn't really see where it was coming from, but I can see them just getting shot to pieces. Yeah. And I can see small arms, impacting all around them. Mm-hmm. And we have a battle drill for that. Yeah. Like, we're going to pull in and create a cover with the vehicle, and we're going to dismount on the non-contact side. Yeah. And so Nate starts that turn, and we go to make that turn and pull right into a semicircle of they were dressed as Afghan soldiers. Mm-hmm. And I had probably a 1 or 2 second this is what I do. I'm gonna grab these Afghans and get them in the fight. Yeah. And then I remember,
maybe not these Afghans.
There's no Afghan army on the camp today. And if there was, I would know, because they would be here for right. These probably aren't our guys. And they probably read my mind and he thinks that we're with him. Let's clear this up. And they started firing into my door. Yeah.
Pretty good sign.
Yeah. Yep. So I had my rifle turned wrong way around because I was I brought this gigantic sniper rifle.
Sniper,
yep. And it's it's touched from the floorboard to the roof of the truck. And I was ready to step out, so now I got my butt stock toward the enemy. And, anyway, I flip it around, pull it up, fire one round, and jammed on me. I've never had a SCAR jam on me ever. That rifle had run flawlessly for forever. Yeah. And even after that, I went out and shot the hell out of it to figure out what happened. And
Murphy.
It ran great. Mm-hmm. the only thing I can figure is I hung my charging handle.
I was going to say it had to catch up on some kind of piece of kit or something.
I think I had that door kicked open, and when I presented the rifle out, I think the charging handle hit the door frame, but I don't know, but it did. So now my rifle's jammed. I saw Chief and Matt are hit and down, and they're obviously hammering our truck, and it was just a reflex really, but I did have a thought like they got me. Like I'm just sitting here with my jammed rifle, sitting in my truck seat.
Yeah, not a place I want to be. Yeah.
Nope. But I was like, these guys still have a chance. I'm gonna create space.
Yeah.
So I transitioned my pistol and advanced as fast as I could toward them, engaging. Basically did El Prez, just rapidly transitioning across these guys, and I thought they would get me at some point. That's how that was going to be it for old Earl.
Yeah,
but they didn't. I guess we won that battle of wills. I still remember, the guy who I'd fired that first round at. I kicked rocks and dust up in his face, and it caused him to turn his head. And then when I pulled my pistol, he was getting back on his sights, and we faced off over our front sight posts, and his rounds missed me.
Wow.
Hit everybody in the truck, but and then mine didn't. I put him down, and transitioned to the next guys, and fought with my pistol to an empty water tank where I was at least behind some concealment. I was hoping it was full, but then as soon as I got behind it, it was
everything's
empty.
Whistling through.
Yeah, it was coming right through.
All right,
and I can hear people screaming for a medic, and screaming Chief's hit. And I'm like, gosh, well, I have now a mostly empty pistol.
Yeah,
my rifle is jammed. I need more time. So I was like, pulled out a hand grenade, and I was like, no way they're going to rush over this hand grenade. And if they do, here we go. So I, pulled the pin, let the spoon pop. I counted to 3, which was probably 1 because I was so amped up.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And I just kind of leaned out past that tank and threw it about 6-7 feet from me, which just happened to the guy I'd initially engaged with my pistol was just laying there. And that grenade, I saw it. It's like stuck right between his left hip and the ground, and then he just stayed on it, picked me back up with his sights, and then took me under fire with his rifle as I pulled back behind that tank, and I started, locking my bolt to the rear and stripping my rounds out and getting that,
jam out of there.
Get my jam fixed. Which to me, if you're a super sniper or a gun nerd, by the time the grenade detonated, my rifle was back up, and that's like one of the things I was most proud of.
I was going to say that's pretty good.
I cleared this complex malfunction inside of however much time was on that hand grenade.
Yeah. How much did time slow down at that? Do you remember, did you feel
so slow?
Yeah.
And it only got slow. I can actually tell from my memory how much stress I was under. Yeah. Because at one point I have a vivid memory of the brass leaving my rifle and just slowly spinning through the air, and I could it's amazing. I don't know how the brain is an amazing thing, how it can slow down time and you can still feel like you're moving at a speed that somehow makes up time for you. I don't know, it's weird. I had only under fire. Like trying to run as fast as I could. I'm like, this feels really slow, but
so you initially come out. You make, what I love about this is I got to send this episode to one of my buddies because we had a very spirited conversation one time with a group or battalion CSM over the fact of who's ever going to have to fight with their secondary. Those conversations that come up sometimes with he was angry about the Beretta at the time because it was always breaking locking blocks, and it was just one of those conversations. He was my Bravo, and he made some kind of comment, and there was this big argument back and forth, well, you'll never actually have to do it, and so there you go.
Not never, but highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely, but in the times when you need it, you really need it, which was always our argument.
Yeah.
So you come out there, you create space by putting yourself in between them. You start putting pistol rounds into these guys, throw a grenade, get that scar back up, and then come around that corner. About how many enemy are in that sort of first engagement in that semicircle?
So I think there's around 7.
Okay.
And then just from where the bodies were, there was probably 10 or 11 there.
Yeah.
The Taliban was for sure 15 came on. And
Yeah.
That's not how many body parts we had.
Yeah.
So we think some turned around and ran off or just didn't make it. But so after I got all that done, and I got my rifle, I started receiving rounds from my rear and left.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a fighter probably 100 meters to my rear and left, and he was in the prone, just out in the middle of the airfield. I don't know what he was doing out there. I think he maybe got hit by somebody else. Maybe his guy. Anyway, I don't know why you would do that, but he was just out in the middle of the open.
But it gave you a chance for the super sniper?
Yeah, so I'm like, finally.
Yeah, finally.
And he's breaking rounds. I can hear him snap thumping behind me.
Yeah.
And sand was sprinkling off the Hesco down my neck. That's why I figured out, that somebody was shooting at me. Why is that happening? Yeah. And I look out, and he's he's in a sling-supported prone position. Yeah. And I went and mocked it back up. He put about 8 rounds in probably a 4 or 5 inch group, which is about what an AK would even do.
Right.
Just about 8 inches below and to the rear of my head. So he missed me. Yeah. But like he said, I have 100 meter zero on my gun. Yeah. And he's laying at 100 meters because it's where I would do my sprints for my morning workouts. And so I held. I went to a high kneeling. Yeah. And I held for whatever reason the notch of his throat where it hits his chest just stood out to me, and I held right there, pulled the trigger. Yeah. And he just vaporized off the planet. Was just gone. And it took me a little bit to figure out what happened. Yeah. Because I thought the Polish armor had finally got out there, and this guy just got smoked by a tank. But he is wearing a suicide vest. Yeah. And I was like, well, that's probably why he was way off there by himself, because nobody wants to hang out next to a guy that's got the suicide vest on. I was like, I hope he's the only one, because the rest of these boys are right on top of us, and which found out to be untrue. Everybody had a suicide vest on. Yeah. So I stood up, and I'm behind this tank at the corner, and everybody's still back behind me, and I was like, well, I can't let these guys take this corner, because then they'll be right on top of us. Yeah. I'm going to go down there and close with them. And still, at that time, I didn't know if they were trying to come down to where we are, or they're on the airfield at this point. I thought maybe they were going to head off to our right and to start destroying aircraft, which would have been of some value to them. Yeah. So I was going to stay engaged with them so that they couldn't just freely,
because there were sappers just going. Yeah, sure.
It turns out they were exactly trying to get down the road that we were on, and we were in the way. And so, it was
aircraft was not their goal.
It was an
they wanted Earl.
Unstoppable object hits the immovable object. So we ground each other to pieces right there on that corner. Okay. So I'm still figuring this out. So I head down that corner, and because I know whoever's not wounded, they're going to hear me. They're going to come around this corner. So I'm going to go and get engaged, and then the rest of my guys are going to link up with me. Yeah. And I get about halfway down, and the guys I had not hit with my pistol all hang muzzles out from behind cover and take me under fire. And I start returning fire, and they're only like 12, 15 meters away, and I have this damn monster.
Your muzzle brake is on them? Yeah.
And I had like a 25 power Night Force scope.
Of course.
And luckily I had put a...
at that point, maybe the MP5 at that point, right?
Where's the MP5
where's that
at?
guy? Yeah, I need that guy.
So I'm trying to camp my rifle and use my 45 offset red dot.
Nice, okay.
Which it's really neat.
I was going to say, sounds great on the range. Yeah.
Sounds great on the range, but when you're catching hell from 4 or 5 guys,
it's a very small optic. Yeah.
It's hard to it's hard to pick up, and everybody's shooting at me. So I just start rapidly transitioning across them again, and I'm just 2 to 3 rounds to kind of beat them off of me a little. Yeah. And which luckily it's a sniper rifle, so it only holds 20 rounds. Yeah. So I instantly run it dry.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm still moving at this point.
But got some 308 in their faces.
It did. It worked.
All right.
I created some space. Yeah. I dump my magazine, and I have to super elevate the gun because I just can't hold it out there like an M4 to do a speed reload.
Yep.
And I chose not to transition again because I hadn't reloaded my pistol from the last time I had used it. Yeah. And I was, I didn't know how many rounds, but I felt there was only like 3 to 5 rounds left in it. Yeah. And and I had so many enemy in my front. I was like, the pistol is not going to fix this. Like, I have to get this rifle back up.
Yeah.
And as soon as I super elevate my muzzle, the nearest fighter to me decides this is my chance. I got him. So he throws his AK into his sling and screams Al Akbar and just starts sprinting toward me.
No shit.
Yep. And so I'm like, I don't know what he wants, but I don't got it. So I get my gun back up, and he's probably from you to me, which felt like at the end of my muzzle.
Yeah.
And I just hold my rifle out in front of me and just hammer down on him, which detonates his vest. And luckily, as I had been moving to cover, I was behind everybody's like, how did you not get hurt?
Yeah,
I was like, I don't know, but I had slowly moved in behind this generator junction panel as this occurred, and there's pictures of it. It's just covered in frag and bullet holes. That it caught all that.
Crazy.
And all I ended up was just getting knocked down by the blast.
That's wild, man. It's wild that none of the first guys that you cooked with that pistol, that none of those
detonated.
Yeah.
So the guy I got with my hand grenade, he was the only intact body.
Yeah.
For some reason, so his vest didn't detonate when I hit him with that the hand grenade, which makes no sense.
Yeah.
But
war's weird.
Yeah. And so anyway,
so you blast, or he vaporizes.
Yeah.
Generator panel takes everything. You get blown onto your back.
I get blown into my back. I kind of TKO'd, and I just remember, I was kind of sitting up in this wall, and I could, once again, I'm hearing that the rifle, and then I'm getting feedback from rounds impacting in between my legs, and I look up, and there's a fighter is left cover, and he's just walking up to me. Firing his rifle, but he's holding his rifle real low on his chest. Not even like
sort of hip fire.
Just kind of hip firing. So all his rounds are hitting low. They're hitting in between my legs, and he's he's making eye contact with me as he's walking up, and so I just jerk back, pull my rifle up, and just hammered I don't know how many rounds, but all that I could get out of the gun.
Yeah.
And fold him up.
Wow.
And his vest doesn't detonate. And I get back, as I'm standing, I'm re-engaging the guys behind him that are taking me under fire now that he wasn't successful. And my rifle goes dry again.
Yep.
And I was like, I am not doing another speed reload drill with these guys right on top of me. So I'm gonna mix it up. So I dump my mag and turn and sprint back to the corner where I'd come from.
Okay.
And as I run down there, I get my rifle reloaded, and I crash into Drew Busick because he's running back around the corner, and he's got his MP5. And as I jumped out, the driver had done a reverse 180 and kind of thumped into a wall, and one round had come through my door and run down the length of the truck and hit the child safety locks for the rear seat. So Drew
he's stuck in a vehicle that's getting hammered.
He saw me jump out and kind of assault in, and then he was trying to follow me, and none of the rear doors won't work because he's got the child safety locks have been hit by a ricochet. So he climbed out the other side and ran over, and can't find me, and isn't for sure where I went.
Yeah.
And anyway, now he knows. And I'm like, Drew, I know right where they're at.
Yeah.
Let's go get him.
Nice.
He's like, all right.
Yeah. And finally, I got out of the child locks.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So he takes the far side. I take the near side. We're doing cross coverage.
Yeah.
And he gets down to the last fighter that I had shot before I'd run down, and the guy's kind of smoking. And I'm like, hey, Drew, stay away from the bodies. They have suicide vests.
Yeah.
And I remember he looks up and he's like, what? And pretty much right after he says what, the vest, we call it, low order.
Low order, yeah.
So
yeah.
it was just lit on fire and burned vigorously.
Yeah.
And it's like a 30 foot, 40 foot blowtorch in the air.
Right.
And it was it was hot.
Yeah.
Like, it was stunningly hot. And Drew, leaves that side, comes to my side, and we both end up behind this junction panel again. And I don't know if it was cooking his hand grenades off, but eventually they all started throwing hand grenades at us.
Yeah.
From the video, it looks like while we were behind there, probably 10 to 15 hand grenades detonate in that area. And Drew's pretty upset about it still this day because he is like battered in grenade frag. So he got every round that missed me when I jumped out of the truck hit him. So it would rounds were coming through my seat and then coming apart, and then he got hit with that stuff. Every grenade that detonated, he caught a piece of it. And
not all oral though.
Yeah. So I use cover better, I guess, than he does. But
that's that force training.
Yeah. So we're behind that wall, fighting it out, and these grenades keep detonating. And that's where I remember. I know that I was maxed out because I can't remember anything past the rear of my rifle.
Yeah.
I know that I was presenting it. I know that I was firing rounds, but I have a crystal clear memory of my scope, the 45 offset that was there. Nothing past that. And I remember brass leaving my rifle and arcing through the air.
Yeah.
And I can remember, I have this perception of aiming at something.
Right.
I have no idea what I was aiming at. And all I remember is that's as far as my memory will allow me to see in that at that time. But and I just being super internal and probably 2 feet is as far as I have any memory of during this period of the battle.
Yeah.
And but I get hit in the throat, and I'm like, somebody, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And I have my admin pouch, and I look down. And in between, my admin pouch and the wall, there's a hand grenade, and that's somebody threw it at me and it hit me, and I just remember sweep, just
jump out,
sweep. Yeah, that's exactly what I did.
I love it,
the old I just stuck my hand down,
nice hand,
swept it out, and I kicked that thing out. And Drew, he's grabbing me. He's like, we gotta get the hell out of here. They're gonna kill us. And I was like, I think, okay.
I think that might be, well, they're at least going to kill Drew because he's catching everything.
So he grabs me and we turn to run and just get hammered. I don't know if it was I think it was a suicide vest. It could have been we don't know what the hell blew us up.
Right.
But it blew us down. And I remember getting to my feet and I'm kind of tangled up on Drew and we're both getting up and my gun's not right.
Yeah.
And I had put a Mark 17 buttstock on my Mark 20, so that it folded,
Yeah. All right. Trying to make it a little bit shorter, right?
Well, I hadn't utilized that feature today until this point, but I looked down and there's an arm from probably the just below the elbow to the hand had hit the buttstock on my rifle and folded it over, and now it's kind of tangled up in my sling, and that's, what I was kind of messing around with, and got all that, up and, got my rifle back up and followed Drew. We ran back around that corner. And we get back around the corner, and I get my buttstock locked and get back on security. And Drew's kind of telling Chief what's going on, and he's like, and he's just, I know right where they're at.
Yeah.
Let's go get them. Which I remember being super pumped that Chief Colbert was what's going on, boys?
Yeah.
Because the last time I'd seen him, I thought he was dead.
Yeah.
Because he kind of pulled back, stiffened up, and just fell over. And I thought he'd been mortally wounded.
Yeah.
And he'd just been shot.
Because he was on that four-wheeler.
He was on the four-wheeler.
Yeah. The initial four-wheeler that got hit. Yeah.
He's got shot in the butt.
Yeah.
And at this point, he's walking it off. But I just remember, being so excited that he wasn't dead.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And he's like, well, let's go get him. And so we have a few more guys now.
Yeah.
We have one Navy SEAL. You can't have a Cool War story about Navy SEAL.
I was waiting for when he was going to come in there.
We have one Navy SEAL on the whole camp. He's there for the change of command, and he's here for the story now.
Perfect.
And Lieutenant Turnipseed, I don't know where he ended up, but him and Drew take the far side again.
Mm-hmm.
And me and Chief are stacked up on the right, and we have a Polish soldier and then a 10th Mount soldier, Mike Ollis.
Yeah.
He's like, can I come with you guys? I'm like, yeah, let's go.
We'll take gun barrels too.
Yeah. And I'm leading them out. I'm super excited.
Yeah.
I'm an old hat at this. And I take one step around the corner, and I'm like, Chief, hold on. And I'm going to attack mag now. Yeah. And I have no magazines in my kit.
Yeah.
And I pull the magazine out of the rifle, and it's got one round on it.
Mm.
So I got one in the chamber and one in the mag. And I'm like, Chief, I can't take point. He's like, why? And I'm like, I'm out of ammo.
I've done a fair bit of shooting.
I was like, I only have one round. He's like, what? I was like, I have one round. I can't walk point. He's like, I know your plan. He's like, I'm already shot, so I can go first and get shot more. And I was like, yep, that is my plan.
And the good thing is, of course, you don't have a weapon that has easy, mag reciprocity with your mates there, because you got an MP5. I'm getting Chief's probably got an M4.
Yeah, and I was like, hey, anybody got ammo? I'm like, yeah, I got M4 ammo. Like, Drew's got 9mm ammo.
But you're a super sniper, so I know I don't have what you need.
Unique ammo with unique magazines. Great.
And, perfect. I would settle for an AK right about now.
Anything, So, Chief takes point. We get down there, and he's like, looks like you guys handled it. And, as soon as the words leave his mouth, this kid sits up, Al Akbars us, and bounce passes us 2 hand grenades, which causes everybody to sprint all over the place.
Sure.
And I see Drew and Lieutenant Turnipseed, laying it down and transitioning to their left after a guy.
Yeah.
And then I start hearing an AK behind us, and one of the fighters is run all the way around this little section of containers and Hesco wall, and sprinted, back around the corner and attacked the stack from the rear.
Wow.
And I turn around and, take him up, fire my last 2 rounds at him. And Drew is let him have it with the MP5, and he hits the ground and detonates. Staff Sergeant Ollis is like right there next to him. Mm-hmm. And he blows Staff Sergeant Ollis most of the distance to me. Mm-hmm. Now I'm like out of ammo.
Yeah.
My pistol's empty. My rifle's empty. I had my damn pocket knife out, looking around. And I was like, okay, man, I'll put this up. Not going to be useful, but I'm going to grab this kid and render aid. I'll be the guy. Yeah. So I run over and I grab him and drag him into the UAV compound, which is one of the walls that we've been kind of fighting from.
Okay.
And I find myself alone again, and I'm like looking around. I'm trying to treat him, but I hate to get sucked into my patient.
Right. And especially with no weapon.
This isn't safe. I'm out of ammo. And I see a civilian contractor, and he's hiding behind a generator. And I'm like, hey, come over here. And he comes running over. I was like, hey, watch my back while I treat this guy. So I send the bolt home on my rifle and hand him my empty rifle. But I figure at least, it'll give him courage enough to stand there and maybe he'll yell something, but at least I'll know,
Okay.
So I start rendering aid, and I'm getting after it, but he's just eating a suicide vest from probably a foot.
Yeah.
I can't. I've stabilized him as best I can, but the best thing for him now is he needs to get in front of a surgeon right now. So I take my rifle back. And I was like, "Do you have a vehicle?" And he's got a little Kawasaki LT-ATV thing. Yeah. He's like, "Yep." Shows up, and I'm like, all right, take this kid to the hospital. I'll cover you when you break the compound. Once again, I'm like, I'm not going to cover shit.
Cover you with my words.
Yeah, but it got him moving.
I like it.
So he's like, all right, and I'm up on the wall, and he's getting ready to drive. He's like, I don't know where the hospital's at.
Okay.
Son of a bitch, man. And luckily, another soldier comes running up from somewhere. I'm like, do you know where the hospital's at? He's like, yes. Like, all right, you hop in here and get this kid to the hospital, have this guy drive you there, and I'll cover you. Yeah. So, and I stick my gun out. They take off driving, and They got him to the hospital like 60 seconds after leaving there. I think he was probably 5-6 minutes after he was wounded. He's on a surgical table, and unfortunately, he succumbed to his wounds.
Yeah, best chance he had, though. I mean, yeah, it's crazy.
Yep. And then, I hate telling this story because I really feel like it reinforces some, stupid shit I was told. But when I was in the 18 Bravo course, they have the light weapon side, and there's like buckets of parts, and you're under stress building these guns, and like you're a Green Beret, and when you're on the battlefield, you're going to have to be able to, fix guns under fire and make them work. And so I'm on the battlefield, and I don't have a gun, and I'm like, so I run over and grab an AK.
Yeah.
And it's got a .308 round through the bolt.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, with all the cook-offs of all the different SBES, it's not even like you just battlefield recover. Like, normally you shoot a guy, and if he does an SBES, you're like, hey, cool, all right, I'll take that. Yeah.
So then I put it down, and I go over and grab another, because there's guns everywhere.
Sure.
So I pick up another one.
Pieces,
and it's got rounds through the magazine, and the receiver is just swole out. Okay, that gun's not going to work. But the bolt's good. So I pull the bolt out. And,
nice.
And, I remember always being told that you don't need the dust cover on your AK because it doesn't do anything anyway. But I'm like, I don't know. Toot. Yeah. And then, so I had an AK. And,
that's awesome, man.
And, attempted to get back in the fight, but it was basically over at this point.
Yeah.
And, the incoming commander.
Hell of a change of command.
Vince Castor, he's like not the commander yet. So he took that chance to run to the sound of the guns because he's like until we do the ceremony, he can run the company. I'm going to go, and this will be could be my last chance to really get in a fight. And he shows up and he's like, "Girl, what the hell are you doing?" He's like, "Well, I'm kind of thinking there's they had a base of fire to cover this assault force coming through." I was like, I think we should go out there and get him.
Yeah.
And, he's a little cooler head. He's like, well, Polish tanks are here now, firing out in the town. And he's like, let's just head back to the SF camp and get 100% accountability on what's going on.
I can't imagine any scenario where I would, in your shoes, be more confident at that point, though, because I've just like walked through every possible mortal, combat, and I'm feeling pretty good.
I remember seeing when they threw the 2 grenades, one of them landed, probably 10, 12 feet from me. Yeah. And I barely took cover. I didn't even I just turned my head around. I was like, why are you guys running off? These can't really hurt you. I mean, it hurts, but you'll be fine. Yeah. And so I didn't even take cover, which is, profoundly stupid thing to think.
Yeah.
But I remember looking at it, like, look away though. I don't want to get anything in my eyes.
Yeah, if I don't see it, it doesn't see me.
I turned my head and it blew up, and I just wrote it out like that. Which my wife is like, don't tell that story. I don't want to ever hear
I love it, man.
That story.
That's freaking amazing, man. Holy cow!
But so at this point, I'm like feel completely invincible. And I get back
video gamed.
Yeah.
Like an hour.
Yeah. So I thought I had been in a gunfight for like an hour. It was literally from the time from the video, you see the truck go and you kind of like see what's going on, and you can see all these vests detonating and stuff burning. It's like a 7-minute gunfight.
It's crazy, yeah.
And I just remember being exhausted.
Yeah.
And I still, I'm like watching the video, I'm like, well, that doesn't made up with my mind.
Right.
This was like at least an hour.
Yeah. It's amazing. That's what it's about, the suspension of time and when you're in mortal danger is weird. Like there's so many stories of how much it slows down for you, but how long it seems to have taken, and it doesn't just, it's wild. As you get back there, any wounds? Are you got some shrapnel, or you just,
No, I got one of the vests when it detonated, and this is my guess. I'm pretty sure this is what happened. It blew one of his magazines apart.
Okay.
And then I had a piece of AK. I had AK brass, no round, no powder, with an undented primer, and it was stuck in my arm. And I pulled it out. It was stuck. I remember it didn't hurt that bad, but I was like, well, it looks weird. And I had my Gerber on my belt. I pulled my Gerber out, and it had created suction by being in my tissue, and I just remember having to pull a lot harder than I would have expected to have to, and it
so primer out, like
primer out,
empty part. And,
so when I get sunburn, it looks just like somebody hit me with a cookie cutter or something. And I pulled that piece of brass out, and that was the only real wound.
Obviously concussions and everything.
And then later that evening, I took my kit off and started getting terrible back spasms.
Sure.
Didn't know what was going on.
Your body might have been through a couple things.
My body was trying to attach my head, hips, forcefully.
Oh man!
Which Drew came running up. He's like, "Where are you hit?" Afterwards, I'm like, "I'm not." And
he's like, "I'm hit everywhere."
And he even got mad. He's like, "No, you're hit.
Yeah.
You're too dumb to know."
Right. So the adrenaline's keeping you like, no, for real, I'm good, bro.
I'm good. And he's like, "How the hell did you get hit?" Because Drew got fragged the bottom of one of his feet. So he figured as he was running away, something blew up and hit him.
Oh man.
And he's battered from head to toe, front to back. He caught everything. And so he's very upset. And then Chief got shot. Drew got shot. He caught frag. Nate Apkemeyer was hit. So that night we stayed 100%. But because my back spasms were so bad, I got a ton of Valium and other muscle relaxants to help. And so they put me to bed. So I was the only person that got to go to sleep that night. And Chief and Drew, were in a guard tower together. And Chief's butt's bandaged up, so he can't sit down. So he had to pull duty, guard duty all night.
Getting shot. Yeah.
And he's like, "Where's Earl at?" Like, "Oh, they put him to bed."
Sleeping.
He's like, "What?"
Yeah, because he man through the whole engagement. Now he's sleeping.
I gave him drugs. You can't have a weapon when you're on drugs.
Yeah.
He can't stay awake anyway because he's on so much Valium. Well, I'm hit. Where's my drug?
Holy cow! All right, that sounds like okay, Medal of Honor, got it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen right away.
No.
Like you tell that story, it's like, okay, I wonder if that's an AAM or no. I'm pretty sure that's a Medal of Honor. Like the initial point of creating that space and being like, listen, that's it for old Earl, but I'm going at him with the pistol. Like that right there is sort of the difference between valor and heroism, right? Like that is, I'm putting it on the line for my brothers. I know that they're getting smoked up behind me. I'm going to create some space. Everything after that is like a video game.
Yeah.
Right? That decision right there is what, to me, is the difference. But it doesn't happen right away. So talk me through, you go on about your career.
Yeah. So I was very excited because I'd been teasing my company sergeant major.
Yeah.
But since I earned a Bronze Star on my team.
Yeah.
And I was like, so if I'm working on the AOB,
I get a different award.
I can get a different award, right? That's two different things. He's like, you're not getting two Bronze Stars. Like that's my policy.
Yeah.
Like, I'll find something for you, but you're not getting two Bronze Stars. Okay, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And I came back and I was like, I am going to make you break your word because I'm pretty sure you're about to have to write a Bronze Star.
Yeah.
And he was like, you're not getting a Bronze Star. For that.
Yeah.
You're going to get something else. So,
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Which, he was thinking a Silver Star.
Yeah.
Which I was.
Yeah. An incredible honor. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I never would have in a million years, thought that I would be, nominated for a Silver Star.
Right.
And really, it would not have gotten approved at all. I think. I think the real reason that there was even any substance to look at it for an upgrade was General McConville was the landowner as the 101st Commander, and he sent down a team and did a super in-depth 15.6. And that's why most of the evidence and documents to support the upgrade even exist. Because Green Berets, we wouldn't have done that. Anyway, this happened, and then
Earl, you good job, bro.
Yep.
Yeah. We're going to give you an extra scoop of chow tonight. You good job, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, it went up. It got downgraded for one reason or the other. And but for me, I I really embrace the quiet professional thing.
Yeah.
I don't mind bragging in a room full of Green Berets, but like external to the unit, I was not comfortable.
Yeah.
So it gets downgraded, and I'm like, thank God that's over.
Yeah.
And
what did they actually award you?
Silver Star.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Which, like you said, amazing honor. Like,
yeah, we still,
some amazing heroes with Silver Stars.
Right. I got a ceremony in front of the first group headquarters, and big, what to do, and like, and I'm pumped.
Yeah.
That's over. I don't have people from the Pentagon calling me, and
I can keep serving.
Yep. Yeah. And then I did feel like I start to realize how much it meant to everybody else in the unit.
Yeah.
They're mad, real mad about the downgrade. And then I felt, kind of like I'd let like first group and the regiment down, and it sucked.
Yeah.
And but I'm an optimist. So it created space for me, and I was on assignment for Okinawa, and I went and served in our CRIF, and saw that 1% of what SOF does.
I was the screw guy for a long time. Yeah.
I got really good at it, and did some cool missions.
Fun times. Yeah.
And came back, got to be a team sergeant.
Yeah.
Pretty much got a good amount of the way. Almost got to go back to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
The president canceled the war.
Yeah.
And
I love. By the way, before we get to that last part, I love that at the end of all that crazy story that you said, you're like, I was upset that I let first group down. Like, that's the most Green Beret thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, even though I did all this, I kind of feel bad that I let first group down. Like, I don't think you let them down, Earl. So you get, you don't get to go to Afghanistan, but sorry, keep going. It's just hilarious to me.
Well, and so, and I get to burn through most of my team sergeant time, and then I start getting weird phone calls again, and eventually get a phone call from the president.
Yeah.
Being awarded the Medal of Honor is a huge deal. He's a busy man, so they're trying to set that schedule up.
Yeah.
So they're calling, they're getting my schedule when I'm going to be in and out of the country.
Yeah.
So like we'll link up his calendar with mine, which as a difficult because blocking off these huge chunks of time, I'm not even going to be in the country.
Yeah.
And they get it narrowed down, and like 30 days out, like, hey, in 30 days you're getting a call.
And at this point, right? Like,
I know. Well, they won't tell me, but I'm like,
you're kind of.
I know. And Green Berets are the gossip girls of the SOF community. Like,
and at this point, Matt Williams and Ron Shure had similar stories where they had to wait on these same calls. So
Yep.
Gotcha.
And and then 2 weeks out, they're like, hey, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You're gonna get you're getting a call from not the president. You're gonna get a call from a senior member of the U.S. government.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
And a week out, hey, 1 week on this day.
Yeah.
And then 48 hours out. And 24 hours, you're getting, like, literally at this time, 24 hours from now, this phone's gonna ring.
Place of duty. Yeah.
And then that morning, again. So and then 2 hours before the call, I get another call. Hey, in 2 hours, this number is gonna ring, and be ready. And I'm like, I am an E8. I got it.
Yeah.
Calm down. I said, no, I'm going to be here. And so I go light a cigar, smoking a cigar out in front of 3rd Battalion headquarters. Got my phone in my hand, and just going to stay here at, full charge, great signal. Power goes out on base, and we drop a cell phone tower about most of the way through my cigar, 20 minutes from the call. I go from having full signal to none. So I'm like, oh Jesus! Jump in my car, and I'm like trying to pick which way to go for signal, and I find it in front of our hospital.
Okay.
We've got 3 bars. I'm like, that's good enough for whatever we're about to do.
Yeah.
And so the phone rings, and it says White House, U.S. government, and there's still something wrong with the signal on base, so it goes straight to voicemail. And I'm like,
does he leave a message? That's the question.
No, so I'm like panicking at this point, because I'm like, everybody, the entire enterprise from the DoD down has been coordinating this phone call, and I didn't answer the damn phone, and now I just sent the president to voicemail. So I'm like, well, I'll call back.
Yeah.
So I call back, And it goes to the White House switchboard. You know, they're like, you know, White House.
Yeah.
And I was like, I missed a phone call from this number. And they're like, sir, you probably were spammed.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I was expecting one. So there's that. Oh, what's your name and affiliation? I'm like, Master Sergeant Earl Plumlee, U.S. Army. I'm like, okay, hold for the president. And he answered on the first ring. So I always tell people he didn't call me. I called him.
There you go. He was in the middle of leaving a voicemail, and you popped on. Yeah.
And he talked to me for kind of a long time.
Yeah.
I remember I was like, you know, I had interacted with President Obama in the Carib and President Trump. And it's a phone call, so I'm trying to, you know, be engaging. Yeah. And it's not too overwhelming. And he's like, you know, you're a pretty funny guy. I don't want everybody to miss this phone call. Hold on. So I'm gonna put you on speakerphone. Okay. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, all right, I'm just gonna introduce you around the room so you know who's in the room. He's like, I got Secretary of Defense Austin, and I got Christine Wormuth, you know, Secretary of the Army. You probably don't know her yet. And I was like, but anyway, Earl, okay, go ahead. And then it was like, I am talking to my boss's 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 boss on speakerphone. Okay, I'll reel myself in a little bit. But that was a pretty neat phone call. Yeah. And I got off the phone with him, went back to my team, and we packed up and deployed the next day.
That's awesome, man. That's great. Yeah. So you end up finally getting the presentation. Mm-hmm. And I know we've taken a ton of your time, but as we're wrapping up, how did that feel? I know you don't necessarily, as pretty much I've been blessed to meet several recipients. And I haven't met a single one of you guys that's like, oh yeah, I loved being the pomp and circumstance of like, Earl's a hero. But did you feel like that validated all of those, you know, all of the guys from first group and all of your mates that were there on that hit? Like,
yeah, and my impression, especially for a Green Beret, it's you're in a tight spot to ever be recommended for the award. Yeah. Because if you get killed with 30 Afghans, it doesn't matter what you did. Yeah. There's no witnesses that are going to be of substance that will be credibly used. So there's probably definitely tons of Green Berets who've died that deserve the Medal of Honor. There's never going to get it because of the standards to be considered and awarded. And so it's hard to have a big head when you work in an organization like Special Forces. And if you did get a big head, there's plenty of people that will fix it for you.
Absolutely.
And mine I think is unique in the fact that while there were U.S. casualties, none of my team or friends were killed or maimed. Yeah. So it's kind of a good news story going forward. And we're all pumped to go to the White House, and then as you know, they elected to do 3 on the same day, and 2 of them were posthumous, which really kind of brings for us kind of like turn the volume down and brought gravity to the story, because my story sounds fun, and as you're a gunfighter, you're like, hell yeah, you did all the things. Right. Then you hear about Cash and Sleece, and you're like, guys that
Sleece phenomenal. Yeah, both of those stories are crazy.
Did everything right, and then didn't make it.
Paid for it. Yep.
Paid for it. Yeah. So I thought that was how can you get a big head in a room like that?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Both those stories, obviously Cash not from within the SOCOM sort of bubble, but Sleece being Ranger Regiment, and I was honored to sit on the awards board that looked at that from the SOCOM level. Just to read through and go through all of that stuff was one of the most humbling things I've ever done in my career, was just to read all of the after action thing for that. Just an amazing act of valor and heroism. And Earl, man, I can't thank you enough for taking us through. I mean, I knew some of that story, but to hear it from you, just phenomenal, man. And I'm so happy that you're able to still be here to tell this story, to continue to serve, to pass on all the things. Like the medal doesn't make you, any different. You were still Earl. You were still, as a team sergeant, you were still serving. You were still giving back to the community. It's not like all of a sudden, okay, now, hey, you were already a leader, right? You were already doing these things. Now you just have a little bit more of a pulpit, a little bit more of influence to be able to do it on a larger scale. But I can't thank you enough for representing the regiment the way you do and the way you did, and for coming on with us. I'll turn it over to you. Any last words before we wrap up?
No, I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah.
All right. I told you guys. I wasn't lying. That is a phenomenal story. I mean, Earl is a hero, but also the ability to tell that story. I mean, as you saw, I was laughing through the entire thing because he's just a hilarious storyteller. And what an honor to be able to sit down in person with Earl with the medal sitting right there and hear that phenomenal story from a true American hero. What an honor it is to be the host of this episode and to be able to have that conversation. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I want you to send it to someone else that's either on your team or in your sphere of influence, because I guarantee you they're going to enjoy it as well. I hope that you're already following and subscribing to Softcast, but if for whatever reason this is your first episode, please go down, subscribe. We have amazing people across all of Soft that we get a chance to talk to, just like Earl. So I hope you get a chance to subscribe and go down and give us a 5-star review. It really does help others find the show. Follow at USSOCOM, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Learn more about the command and see the next episodes of Softcast that are coming out. And no matter whether this is your first episode or whether you've listened from season 1, we covet your feedback to make the show better. So please send us an email at softcast@socom.mil. And we really do read every one of them, and we do a lot of shaping on the show based on your feedback. So again, on behalf of all of us here at USSOCOM, thank you to Earl for coming on and telling us that story, and thank you to all of you for listening to another episode of Softcast.